Hello and welcome to Inside the Americas. Coming up, anger in Venezuela, students leading the way as protesters vent their grievances against the country's socialist government. In Florida, a trial with echoes of the Trayvon Martin case once again raising thorny questions of race and self-defense in the United States. And the Little Prince may be associated with France, but the character was born in New York City, where we'll be profiling a new exhibition in his honour. We start in Venezuela, and one of the biggest challenges to the socialist government there since the death of longtime leader Hugo Chavez last year. The country gripped by a series of protests in recent weeks, with crowds taking to the streets to vent their anger at high inflation, crime and shortages of essential products. Well, students have been at the forefront of the movement, so our team went to gauge the mood at Alejandro Humboldt University in the capital, Caracas. This report from Pierre-Philippe Berson and Catherine Viette.
For the past 15 days, this entryway has been turned into a makeshift assembly. At the Alejandro Humboldt University in Caracas, students get ready for the next round of demonstrations, and the atmosphere grows more tense by the minute. The protest leaders face pressure and intimidation.
I received threats to my parents. People say those close to the government have come and then returned to arrest me, but they didn't have a proper arrest warrant. Obviously, it scared my parents, so to protect them, I decided to move.
Last week, during a demonstration, 2 young people were killed. One of them was Basil da Costa. He had stopped his studies but remained enrolled at the university's gym. His death has increased the anger of students protesting against the country's high crime rate. Last year, there were 24,000 homicides in Venezuela. That's 5 times more than in Iraq. Those under 25 years old are the worst affected. So at Humboldt University, all entrances are guarded.
Thieves break into the school. They steal our stuff and clean out the classrooms. Normally it's only outside that there are problems. You might get mugged on a street corner or in an alleyway.
Citing safety concerns, many students have stopped going to class. Also, many basic supplies are missing. To fight against capital flight, the government has curbed imports. So like the rest of the country, Humboldt University suffers from shortages.
Look, you see here? There's no more toilet paper. And when there is, the students take it because they don't have any toilet paper at home. And there's no water. Well, today there is, but we didn't have any for the last 3 weeks.
Yet this private university has a good reputation, and a diploma from Humboldt should ensure a bright future. But the Venezuelan economy is in bad shape, with 56% inflation last year, making job prospects look grim.
For the past 2 years, we've seen that nearly 50% of our graduates leave the country. They think they will have no opportunities in Venezuela, so they try their luck abroad.
Many leave for the United States or Canada. For those who stay, the future remains uncertain.
Now, it started with an argument over rap music being played loudly and ended with a trial which once again raises questions of race and self-defense in the United States. A Florida jury found Michael Dunn guilty of 3 counts of attempted second-degree murder and a count of firing into an occupied car, but not of first-degree murder over the deadly shooting of a black teenager. The case bringing back memories of another one in the same state which prompted nationwide debate and soul-searching, that of Trayvon Martin. France 24's Kativan Gorjestani has more.
We have verdicts.
After deliberating for more than 30 hours over 4 days, the jury still could not reach a full verdict.
We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of
Michael Dunn was convicted for shooting at a car full of teenagers, but not for killing 17-year-old Jordan Davis. Despite the decision over her son's death, Davis's mother welcomed the verdict.
We're so grateful for the truth. We're so grateful that the jurors were able to understand the common sense of it all.
The shooting took place in a Jacksonville gas station in November 2012. As his girlfriend was buying wine and chips, Dunn, a white middle-aged man, got into an argument over loud rap music and fired 10 rounds at an SUV carrying 4 black teens, including Davis.
Oh my God, somebody
The trial is the latest case in Florida to raise questions about self-defense and race, just 7 months after George Zimmerman was acquitted in the shooting of another black 17-year-old, Trayvon Martin. The Zimmerman case had sparked nationwide debates and reactions, including a very personal speech from the president.
When Trayvon Martin was first shot, I said that this could have been my son. Another way of saying that is Trayvon Martin could have been me 35 years ago. The African American community is looking at this issue through a set of experiences and a history that doesn't go away. There are very few African American men in this country who haven't had the experience of being followed when they were shopping in a department store. That includes me.
During his testimony, Dunn claimed he saw a gun, though no firearm was found in the car. Like Zimmerman, he said he felt his life was in danger, but this time the jury did not see it that way. Though they couldn't agree on the premeditated nature of Davis's death, jurors did find Dunn's response to the argument disproportionate. He could face a minimum of 20 years for each attempted murder conviction. His attorneys announced they would appeal the verdict, while prosecutors said they would likely retry Dunn for the murder of Jordan Davis.
Meanwhile, in the US state of Utah, a decision which has thrown the issue of polygamy back into the spotlight. This after a federal court ruling making it more difficult to prosecute those who practice it, most of whom are Mormons.
Sometimes it's good to have a big family, especially when your car needs a push getting out of the snow. In all, there are 25 children in the Daga family. They're looked after by one father who lives with their 3 mothers. Cousins Alina and Vicky were the first to marry their husband Joe back in 1990. A few years later, Vicky's twin sister Valerie joined them.
It's like I'm falling in love with this man and, having this newfound love, but also having a little bit of envy over their history and the depth of their relationship that I just couldn't have right then, On the other hand, it was just a large and loving family welcoming me in.
While they've been public about their lifestyle for some time, they've always worried that Joe could face arrest under the state's anti-polygamy laws. But in December, that became less likely. A federal judge ruled that a law banning unlawful cohabitation goes against the right to freedom of religion. While the main branch of the Mormon faith banned polygamy in the 1890s, the Dagas are members of one of the offshoots that continue the practice.
As long as it's adults freely choosing what they want, then I don't feel like it would be my place to tell somebody else you can't choose to love who you love.
And I think you're going to start seeing more people like us become more public. I've had many of our friends and relatives that have said, I could just tell people at work who I am now.
What the Dagas see as unwarranted government intrusion, others see as essential for the protection of women and children. Marion Munn moved to Utah from her native Britain and was part of a polygamous relationship for 18 years. She now argues that such marriages are inherently unequal and often aren't entered into freely.
Certainly within Mormon-based polygamy, it's not really much of a choice because Mormon scriptures teach a woman that if she doesn't consent to living polygamy, God's going to destroy her. So for me going into it, I didn't personally want to live it, but I felt compelled to, as a matter of faith.
Supporters of polygamy have tried to link their cause to that of gay marriage, which has seen growing support in the US. However, while it appears to work for the Dagas, studies have found that polygamy tends to be linked to higher levels of crime, poverty and gender inequality. Utah's Attorney General has yet to say whether he'll challenge the recent ruling, a decision that will affect whether the next generation will be able to carry on their family's tradition.
Finally, the Little Prince may be associated with Paris, but he was in fact born in New York. We're going to take a look now behind the scenes of an exhibition which reveals some of the secrets behind one of the world's best love stories. It's on at the city's Morgan Library in Manhattan until the end of April. France 24's Jessica Le Mazurier reports.
A French classic with an American accent. The Little Prince by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry was written in New York City while the aviator author was in exile during World War II. An exhibition at the Morgan Library in Manhattan reveals how Saint-Exupéry transformed his original doodles into a book that captured the imagination of children and adults across the world.
He didn't speak the language, didn't speak English. He was far from home while his country was occupied by Nazi Germany. He was in absolute despair at what was going on in the world. And yet, he managed to create a book that is really infused with hope.
The exhibition features a bracelet that belonged to the writer.
And it says NYC USA.
Saint-Exupéry was wearing it when his plane went down off the coast of Corsica, just weeks before the end of the war. It was found by a fisherman near Marseille more than 4 decades later. Saint-Exupéry arrived in New York on the last day of 1940. He planned to stay for a month, but ended up staying more than 2 years here. For most of that time, he lived in this block on Central Park South. Friends say he sent paper airplanes flying from his 23rd floor window. There's no record of Saint-Exupéry ever having visited the Bronx, yet the writer's masterpiece has found its way to a high school there. These students are originally from West Africa.
So what's this drawing? A hat? Adults don't understand his drawings. He drew a snake swallowing something, but they thought it was a hat.
Saint-Exupéry rediscovered some of his childhood memories during the autumn of 1942 when he stayed at a mansion on the northern shore of Long Island. The French author spent long nights in his study, coffee in one hand, cigarette in the other, and was known to call friends at 2 a.m. to read them passages.
One of his main themes is the memory of childhood. That's what makes a person who they are, and it's what gives them depth. For Saint-Exupéry, that enchanted world of childhood stayed with him all his life.
It's here that Saint-Exupéry transformed the little character in his head into the hero of his book, The Little Prince.
That's all we have time for on this edition. Do join us again soon, and do stay tuned to France 24.